Hey Who fans, welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 110. Woo!
One day, I shall come back.
Oh dear, we are in trouble, aren't we?
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
I have the advantage of being slightly ahead of you. Sometimes behind you, but normally ahead of you.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear. And it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
A meteor storm, and the sky above us was dancing with lights. Purple, green, brilliant yellow, yes!
I'm the doctor, by the way. What's your name?
Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose.
Run for your life.
It's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Just remember who's standing in your way.
Look at the eyebrows. These are attack eyebrows. You can take bottle tops off with these.
Hope you guys have had a fantastic week. Welcome to the show. Episode 110. Or 110.
No, I like 110. It almost sounds like you should say it in a robotic voice.
I was just thinking that, you know.
Yeah. One. Perhaps you could do it in a 70s sarcastic computer voice, like in our review app.
I'll have to get some. I really should get some sound like some voice vocoder effect or something like that.
Some modulators, yeah.
Yeah. Seeing as we're doing a Doctor Who / sci-fi
visions
show.
Visions of you with all these effects pedals that change your voice, just changing them throughout the show. Welcome.
Well, the Dalek one's not too. Actually, no. Oh, well, I'm not sure.
The Sill one would be good. Imagine having a Sill effects pedal.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Oh, I miss Sill.
Oh, he's still around.
He's knocking about.
He's still out there somewhere. Yeah. Being pushed around.
Knocking about.
Fish tank. Yeah.
Yeah, I miss that gurgling. You know, the thing.
What, galactic slug?
Yeah. Talking of slugs, we got some slug-like creatures coming up in our review.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just saying to you, I was just saying before we kicked off, I treated my partner to an episode last night while we were having our dinner, which didn't go down well.
Oh dear.
Not the sort of episode you want to watch when you're having food, is it?
Yeah, probably not the best choice for dinner. Yeah, actually, talking of stuff like that, I'm going through a watch through of the X-Files, as you probably know. Which I started months ago, and I got the box set on Blu-ray, and I've picked it up, and there was one episode that just absolutely made me put my lunch down, and I couldn't return to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was horrible, really, really bad.
Oh,
but yeah, so I know how he feels, you know, having to. Oh God, did you turn it off? Did you have to turn it off?
No,
you stomached it. Oh, no, crikey!
I was like, I've got to. I said, I've got to review this tomorrow. Got to get it watched.
Oh, yeah. See, there we go. There, that's it, right there. Turn this off. No.
Yeah. Although I did. To be fair, when it got to the end of the episode, I still had one left to watch, and I did then switch it off. I said, "That's all right. I'll watch the other one on my own tomorrow. Don't worry."
It's all right. Yeah.
Only because I knew I'd be crying at the end of it. But anyway, we'll get onto that later. But yeah.
Put EastEnders on. Go on. It's
no,
fine.
That never goes on. That's about the one thing me and my other half do agree on. EastEnders never goes on in this house. Like, as soon as the drums start, we both claw for the control to get it off. We're like, no.
That's good.
I actually get a very unnatural satisfaction out of switching it off. I always have a big grin on my face. I don't know. I love switching EastEnders off. I'm like, no, they're not having my ratings.
Well, we went through years and years ago. My wife went through a phase of watching EastEnders religiously. Like, she wouldn't go a night without missing it. You know, she had to be on, had to be watched. And then she sort of fell out of the loop for a while, and then she's never picked it back up, and that was about 2 or 3 years ago, which is fantastic because it's a ridiculous program.
I know a lot of people like it. I just cannot. Whenever I've watched any of it, which isn't very often, but whenever I watched it, it's just like people shouting at each other or pushing each other under cars. I'm like, who wants to watch this at 7:30 in the evening? It's just so depressing. I just don't get why it's so popular, but a lot of people like it. So fair enough. But the thing is that really does get me is people who watch it on Christmas Day. Who wants to watch that on Christmas Day?
Like it's an event, like it's the thing to do on Christmas Day is watch these. No.
But it's always a murder or something worse. It's like, what,
an
Christmas
affair
Day?
that's come out and someone's getting a right hand. But here's the thing about EastEnders, right?
Get out of my pub.
Get out! This will blow your mind about EastEnders, and you'll never. Any of our listeners that watch it, UK listeners especially. I don't know about our other listeners from around from other countries. You may not have heard of it, so you've lucked out there. Well, no, you're in luck, should I say. But the thing about EastEnders, right, is that it's set in the East End of London. It's a fictional little bit of London, isn't it? But it's set in the East End. And as you know, me and the missus, me and the family, we spend, quite a bit of time in the East End. And the thing about EastEnders is because of the time of day it's on, nobody is allowed to swear. Now, anyone that's ever been to the East End of London will know that is the most unrealistic thing ever. So that's my main problem with EastEnders, and the reason why I've never been able to get into it, because it's, it's a bit like having to to suspend belief when you're watching Doctor Who. It's that kind of thing that you have to get into my head. And those of you that have not thought about that before, you'll probably never watch it in the same way again. Because if you go to the East End of London, give it 20 seconds and you'll hear a swear word of some kind.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. You can watch half an hour of EastEnders and they're all set in East, and not one, I think the most you'll ever hear is the B word, the BIT blah, blah, blah word, or I think, Christmas special, you might hear the BAST blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You might hear those occasionally, but no good.
Totally unrealistic.
Completely. Yeah, it just ruins everything because you can't buy into it now.
Well, they're restricted by that 7:30.
Exactly, yeah.
Time slot, you see.
If it was on at 10,
You flipping bounder.
You flipping, I've been out in that flip. I sound like Moss from the IT crowd. You flipping bloppers. If it was on at 10 o'clock, then yes. And they could all swear their heads off. Every other word was just,
I bet the cast do. I bet when they finish filming, they have to get it all out of their system. Especially Danny Dyer. He can't go like 2 minutes without swearing old Danny Dyer. So I expect they all let rip when they've all finished. Cut. Oh, thank me for the video.
Danny Dyer, yeah, that was a very naughty.
Scene. People are going to be tuning in thinking, what's this EastEnders podcast I tuned into?
Yeah, Danny Dyer, I had to get out. I couldn't do it anymore. Nah, mate, that was naughty. Get out.
Very naughty.
Anyways, Doctor Who, back to...
Oh, yeah, Doctor Who.
Back to Doctor Who.
Oh, no, sorry, Doctor Who.
Back to the Who. You been up to anything, mate? I've had a very quiet week, Doctor Who.
No, I've been watching EastEnders. No, I haven't. I never watched it.
You've been secretly watching it.
Do you know what? Just quickly before we move off this EastEnders thing, do you know what? I did actually bump into Pat in town about 2 months ago. Remember Pat?
Oh, the
Pat
earrings.
Butcher?
Yep.
Yeah, earrings. That's it. I did actually bump into her. She's so posh. She's really lovely. Yeah. And I obviously didn't tell her that I think the show's a pile of poop. I was like, oh, hello, Pam. How are you? That's really chatty. You got a great picture with her.
You look well now you've left that pile of beep behind. Oh, I'm sorry. You're not used to me swearing. You're not anyone swearing, are you? Because you're in EastEnders, or you were in EastEnders. So it's all right.
She was very posh, actually. I said, do you mind having a picture? Oh, yeah, sure. She's smart to have yeah, lovely lady. Anyway, let's move on to EastEnders. Doctor Who. This week, not a great deal. I did book my ticket for our Disappearing Planet event that's coming up at It's not Windsor, is it? It's Slough. They always say Windsor. It's the 10th Planet event. Tom Baker's going to be there. William Russell's going to be there, who's an absolutely brilliant guest. I've been lucky enough to meet him once. He's fantastic. And I want to get a picture with him as well. So as soon as he was added, I was like, right, I'm going. Who else is there? There's loads of people there. Mavis, who was in our last week's review episode. I don't really know.
Oh, yeah.
She's there, whatever her name is. I won't be meeting her, though. Yeah, lots of good people are there. Carol Ann Ford's there. She doesn't do many events. So this is the 10th Planet event in Slough. So I got my ticket for that, which is end of November, I think. So I'm pretty pleased about that. Bizarrely, it's on a Sunday, though, which is a shame because you've been to an event with me there and they've got a nice little bar area, haven't they?
They've got a very nice little...
Regular listeners know that I enjoy a pint. So I was really looking forward to going to the event and then getting lashed up in the bar afterwards, which is pretty standard for me. Then I realised it's on a Sunday and I was thinking, oh no, because I'll be getting a bus and a train back. And oh God, I was thinking, oh, that's a shame. Let's put the mockers on getting lashed.
Yeah. That's
in the bar with Tom and Carol and all the other Mavis. Just imagine it, can't you? Like you were last time, getting lashed up in the bar with them the night before.
I hardly call it lashed up.
Who was it who was wrecked? Which actor was it that was wrecked when you were at that last event?
It was the gentleman that played Nyder in Genesis of the Daleks.
Yes, he's there. He's at this one.
Yes. What's his name? Peter Miles.
That's it.
Peter Miles. It was him and the guy that was played Davros, not Terry Malloy.
No, David Goodison.
That's it. Yeah.
Is it David? Hang on.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was those guys and another couple of guys that had joined them, and they just started drinking at about 8 o'clock, and I was sat on me Todd. I'd only had a couple of pints, and I was on me. I was Billy No Mates. I just had my iPad. I was reading a book, sitting in a bar. And I went through and had dinner, and they were sat there already drinking. This was about 8 o'clock. And I left, and after I had dinner, I went back through to the bar, and I had another drink. I must have gone up to bed about 10:30, I would say, and they were still at it. And there's just basically 3 or 4 empty bottles of wine. There was, they were absolutely lashed. And how they got up and did that the next day is beyond me. Because they're not, spring chickens.
To, mate. They used to have the BBC bar. That Slough bar's nothing compared to the BBC bar. No, they're probably used to it. But I know what you mean. How they got up and did a convention the next day, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Peter Miles, he did look, a slight shade of green for the first couple of hours. Because you got there a bit late, didn't you, I think, on that one?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
So I think by the time you'd got there, he'd had a couple of coffees and he was all right, but yeah.
Got himself going.
So that'll be a good event then.
It will be good. I'm actually really looking forward to that. I know a lot of people who I've met sort of at other events as well, and people who watch my YouTube channel that are all like, are you going? So yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of people there that I know through the channel and through guys who listen to the podcast as well. So as well as a load of great guests, I'm sort of really looking forward to geeking out with some fellow fans as well. Yeah. So yeah, well looking forward to that. The only other thing that I've done this week or that's happened this week is I had a couple of the new Doctor Who Funko Pops arrive. From this new wave. We've got so I got Davros, who's pretty good. He's like the big 6-inch super pop.
Oh, cool. Yep. What's the detail like on his?
Pretty good, actually. Yeah, apart from that, because I don't know. Obviously, Funko don't have much quality control. There's always splodges, or he's got a bit of a splodge on his nose, which kind of ruins it. But no, he looks good. He's a good Funko, actually. I think you'd like him. I think you might want to get him. His control panel thingy looks brilliant, actually. I've done a really good job with that. That's his little desk of switches. No, he's a good pop, actually. If you like your Funkos, he's a good one. And as I said, because he's bigger, he's a good one for your shelf, so you might want to pick him up. The War Doctor's in that range. He's my favourite one of the lot, actually. He's a really good Funko Pop.
He looks good, actually, yeah.
He is good, yeah. And then you've got more variants of the 11th and 12th Doctor, which, well, the matte variant is the one from Nightmare in Silver, so I wasn't that excited about him. But he's okay. And then you've got a 12th Doctor with guitar and Sonic Shades, which sounds like it'd be disastrous because I hate the Sonic Shades, but actually it's quite a nice Funko Pop. It kind of suits the figure, so I'm a bit torn on that one because I hate the sort shades, but I actually quite like the figure. So yeah, I got him, and then I'm waiting for the other one. There's a 10th Doctor that comes with his fighting hand.
Yes.
Which didn't get sent, and very annoyingly, I thought, oh, he's out of stock. It'll be ages. I thought I'll just do a video on these now, get it filmed before they're out of date. So I filmed it all. This is on Monday, and literally I sat down to start editing it together. And in the video, obviously, I've said in the video, I've got all the range, but this one's out of stock, so whatever. Anyway, as soon as I started editing it, I got a dispatch email saying he's on his way, and I'm thinking, oh no, he'll be here by the end of the week. So I'm thinking, might just hold off and refilm like the last bit, the last few bits, and add him in, because it seems a shame not to have him as he's part of the range. So yeah, I've got 10 with the fighting hand on his way, ready to be thrown over the wall any day now.
Your fighting hand.
Fighting hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're pretty cool actually. I mean, I wasn't that excited when they were announced, but again, when you get them in hand, they're pretty cool. Pretty decent. But yeah, I know you weren't too bothered about them, but the Davros one I think you'll like.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
But that's it, mate. I haven't really been up to anything else. I've been trying not to spend too much dollar,
Yeah, exactly the same for me, mate.
And I haven't had a chance to watch any other Doctor Who this week because reviewing a Pertwee app like we are today, it's a 6-parter, and it's kind of taken up any, normally I might have managed to squeeze another one in as well, but no, with it being a 6-parter, I've only had time to watch the review app this week. So
okay,
yeah. So that's been me. What about you?
I've been extremely light on anything Doctor Who. The only thing I've done is I've watched a couple of stories, and that's it. So I literally haven't had time to do much else really. So I watched obviously our review, The Green Death, and then after that, as is always the case after watching our review app, I'm in the mood for that particular Doctor, so I stuck on Death to the Daleks.
Oh, wow. God, I haven't watched that for ages.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a 4-part, so it's not quite as long as The Green Death.
No.
So it's not too bad.
Now, the thing is with the Pertwee Dalek stories is I always get confused. Which one's Death? Is that the one with the sort of clay people?
The Exelons.
That's the one. It's that one, is it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Because Day is the one with the Ogrons. I can't say
the other one.
Yeah, the potato man. And then and then there's another one, isn't there, which is really long and people with
that's right, yeah,
pink fluffy coats and See, I haven't watched those for quite a while actually.
Yeah. We haven't reviewed that one, have we?
No.
The Daleks, yeah. So yeah, well, when we've got that on the schedule, we'll because that'll be an interesting review from a Dalek point of view.
Yeah.
Death to the Daleks. So, but yes, so I was just in the mood for a bit of Pertwee and, stuck that. I normally reach for Inferno or Spearhead, but I thought, no, I'm going to leave them on the shelf. I'm going to pick something that I haven't watched in ages.
Yeah.
So it was Death.
Death, yeah. Good choice. Now I feel like watching the Dalek story, I have to admit. Yeah, now I've got the Green Death done. I could, I've got a bit of time later this week. Might do.
Bang one on.
Bang one on, yeah. Actually, I'll tell you what, one of our listeners, Joe Sweeney, messaged me in the week to say he was watching The Invasion, the Patrick Troughton story.
Oh, right, okay.
And we got to talking about that, and this is another story I haven't watched for ages. And I said to Joe, I said, now we're talking about it, a bit like me and you are now. I said, I really, really want to watch that story. But again, I didn't get time to watch it. But there's a story I haven't watched for a while that needs a definite rewatch. Yeah.
Yes.
So good stuff.
Yeah, so fairly light for us, but we managed to do something.
Yeah, we always manage to do something.
Even if it's something small.
Yeah.
It's always good. Right. This TARDIS is itching for a landing.
Okay, twiddle those TARDIS switches and let's land.
Talking of Mr. Pertwee, Mr. Polarity, last week or the week before, can't remember, we told you about a special event that was coming up called Polarity Day to celebrate the work of Mr. Pertwee on Who. And we now have some details because when we spoke to you guys last, it was a case of this is happening, but we don't know when or what or all that stuff. So we have a date, which is the 23rd of October. And it will start at 1 p.m. in the afternoon and finish at around 5:30. Yes, it's just a celebration, basically, of and remembering John Pertwee as the Doctor. It's going to have some special guests there. We will have Katie Manning. We will have Richard Franklin, Bob Baker, and Terence Dix.
Oh, cool.
They will all be there. There will be a special showing of The Claws of Axos. Which is awesome. We've reviewed that, haven't we?
Yeah, we did that not that long ago, didn't we?
Yeah. And it's actually we thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Back
like
to our
Axis.
scores, but yeah, it was a good one from what I remember. We reviewed that quite well. So yeah, special I love special screenings. There's something about watching Doctor Who with a bunch of other people.
Oh, absolutely, and on the big screen as well.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's just, there's an atmosphere, when you're in with like-minded people and you're all really into it, and it's just great. It's a bit like going to the cinema to see a film that you really, really want to see, that you're so looking forward to, and then you get there and everyone else feels the same.
Yeah,
it's great.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So Claws of Axos, that'll be on. Tickets to this event are free.
Free, yeah.
Yes, there is no cost. However, you do have to apply in a certain way in order to get said tickets. Before I do, though, just give you a reminder of the venue. It's at the New Wimbledon Theatre, which is in Wimbledon, funnily enough, in London.
Strange, yeah.
So there'll be panel sessions as well. There'll be sign-ins, there'll be autographs, and all that stuff. And they're also obviously going to unveil the plaque, which is going to go on the building.
Yeah, nice blue plaque. That'd be good, won't it?
Which is awesome, yeah. So you can request up to 2 tickets maximum per person. And the way now, this is a tad old school. We're going back to like Saturday morning going live, Blue Peter style way of getting tickets for this one. So you can't email, you can't tweet, you can't do any of that stuff. You have to send a stamped, addressed envelope.
Wow,
this is awesome. This brings me back to like
swap shop,
the days of just Saturday morning going live and stuff like that, where if you wanted to enter a competition or if you wanted to get something, you had to send in an already stamped envelope for them to send you the stuff back. Younger listeners are going to be thinking, what the heck is this about?
What are they on about? Yeah.
So you have to actually get a pen. You have to buy 2 envelopes. So you have to send. So first of all, you write out the first envelope with your own address on it and get a stamp on it. That's the first thing.
I can imagine we've lost a certain demographic.
We have, yes.
Already. They think, I'll solve that.
So you need 2 envelopes. The first one has to fit inside the second one. That's the main thing. Whether you fold it up and put it in or you buy a slightly smaller one, up to you. The first envelope or the smaller one, you have to write your own address on it and put a stamp on it so that they can put the tickets in that and post it back to you. Cool. The larger envelope, the second one, you have to post, obviously, off to them, which contains your self-addressed envelope. And you have to send it to Polarity Day, DWAS, Unit 117, 33 Queen Street, Horsham, Romeo Hotel 13, 5 Alpha Alpha. I'm not going to repeat that because this is a podcast, so just rewind it.
Yeah.
If you're a member of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, you will get first dibs, as is always the case. And on their website, it does say that this is going to be in extremely high demand. So if you want tickets to this, I would suggest you get that over to them immediately.
It does sound like a great event, actually. Joking aside about it, does sound like a really good event. And it's free, just for the sake of an envelope. So it's got to be worth doing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So what happens if you don't get tickets, though? They just send you your envelope back. An empty envelope. Imagine getting the envelope back. I've got tickets, you open it, it's just dust.
Oh, crikey, I'm not sure. Them. Yeah.
It's like,
right, it says so. Hold on, it says, sadly, if you do not comply with the above requirements, we will unable to consider your application. So I assume that you don't get any anything back.
Nothing back. Oh, dear.
No. So there we go. If you're outside the UK and you want to go, you can email them and they'll give you some additional details on how you can apply.
Right.
So just email events@dwasonline.co.uk if you're outside the UK. Please do not flood their inbox with ticket requests and all that if you're in the UK, because they'll just tell you to sod off.
Yeah.
Or they'll just ignore it. So, but anyway, just to sum up, Polarity Day looks awesome. I will definitely be sending in my stamped addressed envelope.
Yeah.
So yeah, 23rd of October in London.
I'll be doing it as well, just to double our chances.
Yes.
Great stuff. Right. In other news, Class. Well, Class. We finally got some stuff going on with this. It's coming on the 22nd of October. We're first 2 episodes to air on BBC Three, and the first episode is going to feature Peter Capaldi.
You do surprise me.
What a shock.
What a shock that is.
Yeah, so that's going to be exciting. Just out of interest, did you watch the live sort of announcement, the feed thing they did?
You're going to be very surprised at this.
You didn't.
But I didn't. And that was sarcasm there. No, I didn't watch it. Did you watch it? Any good?
Yes, I did, because I was at home, but I kind of it was the timing was bad because it was about 4:30. I can't remember why, but I sort of had it going on in the background, but I had to do something else at the same time. So I sort of had one eye on it, and I was listening to it while trying to do something else, which escapes my mind right now. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was like 15 minutes. It wasn't very long, and it just had the guys from the show there giving you a bit more information. There was some interesting stuff come out, actually, because the more they talked about it, and they were being very guarded not to give too much away, understandably, but the more they talked about it, the more adult this show is beginning to sound. I don't think this, from what I'm hearing, I don't think this is going to be the show we initially thought. Now, I could be wrong, but like, for example, Faddy, I think it was, or maybe one of the other guys, was saying about the amount of blood in the show. They were saying, it was like, there's one bit where it was just so much, it was making all of us feel really queasy and ill. And I was thinking, really? Now, this sounds more like a sort of horror film than, it sounds like more like the sort of going down the Torchwood road to me.
Okay.
Because if you remember, like the first sort of series of Torchwood, they sort of crammed in quite a bit of language and blood splurting and stuff, didn't they? Toned it down a little bit as it went on, but I think the first series they were really going for it. So yeah, I don't know. The more I hear about this, the more I'm thinking it's sounding more teenage / adult. I don't think this is going to be quite the sort of light sort of show that we perhaps were first expecting, which could be a good thing if it's darker than we imagine.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, according to the Moth, it's going to be sexy at least.
Ooh, yeah.
So there's that.
There is that. Well, I'll give you the thing that's... Moth. I'll give you the rundown that basically for the first 2 episodes, we've got titles for these as well now. So the first episode is going to be called For Tonight We Might Die. That in itself sounds like a barrel of laughs. The second episode is The Coach with the Dragon Tattoo. I'm saying it like that because that's the first time I've actually read the title. That sounds a bit weird. And there's a little synopsis which reads as follows. It's a new term at Coal Hill Academy and the students are preparing for the autumn prom. But when the school comes under attack, 4 alienated students must form an unlikely alliance to defeat them. And this incursion is only the beginning. I read that wrong when I first read this. I thought it said alien students. I was thinking, that's interesting. They're alienated.
Come on,
so
mate.
I guess they're going to be like, outcasts. They're going to be in-betweeners, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah,
and... it goes on to say... I can
just tell you're not excited about this at all.
It goes on to say they have been charged with a great responsibility by the mysterious alien known as the Doctor to guard against the creatures of nightmare that want nothing more than to find a way through to Earth and take it for their own. So this is basically Torchwood for young peeps.
It's sounding
or
younger
like it to peeps, should I say.
Yeah, it sounded like it to me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Moving on. No, I'm joking. I don't know.
Do you know what's really funny is your little Skype window is positioned perfectly on the new Pro image. So I don't know whose body it is. They're sort of running down a corridor, and the top half of the body is you. And I'm telling you, let me take a picture of this. It's absolutely perfect. If this works out right, I'll post it on Twitter. It probably won't. Oh, I think you can just see the reflection on my hand. That's a shame.
You've built everyone up now, and now they're going to be disappointed.
I'll post it anyway, but you won't be able to see what I mean. But it looks like you're part of the class team running down the corridor right now as we record. Yeah. I'm just trying to get you involved in the show in any way I possibly can.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying my hardest to not be so, cynical and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like, if you're going to do a spin-off of Doctor Who, can't we just do something that's really pushes the envelope a bit and not, I don't know, the formula for the show just seems to have been done so many times before.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there was a program that was quite popular called Misfits, wasn't there?
Oh yeah,
Channel 4. I think this is that same sort of vibe where it's like these sort of social, sort of outcast, alienated type of people who are band together, and and we've seen it so many times over the movies and TV for donkey's years now, where you have a school environment or some sort, and you have the lesser known geeks or the alienated students, as they word it in this, sort of band together and form a club, and then I don't know. I just wish they'd have gone something. Can't we just? I don't know. I just can't get my head into it. It's just
no. It's just not grabbing you.
No, it's just not original enough. It's just a mixture of Torchwood and cliches that we've seen for donkey's years, all rolled into a spin-off. And getting Capaldi in on episode 1. What's the need for that?
Well, I knew that's just obvious, isn't it? I knew they were going to do that. But look at it this way: at least we'll get to see the Doctor this year before Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that just doesn't work in my head. The Doctor instructing a bunch of kids or teenagers to put their lives in danger, to protect Coal Hill School, i.e. the planet. It's a bit like American films, like American action films where when aliens are going to attack the Earth and take over, it always seems to happen in New York or Washington or something, Yeah, it's just got that vibe to it. It's like, why, yes, Coal Hill School is, been in Doctor Who since the very beginning, and it's got, a level of importance, but it's not the world, it's not. Oh, crikey. Let's move on before I reach the round.
All right. Well, we've only got a couple of weeks to wait. It could be better than we think. I must admit, I'm a little bit more excited.
You are
by this a little bit, yeah. And at least the promo image hasn't chopped everybody's heads off like the last one, so we actually get to see our cut. Now, I don't know. Let's see what happens. It airs in, what was it, 22nd, isn't it?
Yes. Which just to rub a wee bit of salt in the wound. That's the anniversary of Torchwood.
Oh, yes, it is.
So we're not getting a new Torchwood, sadly, but we are getting Class. But every cloud and all that. Every cloud. Anyway, Adam, I'm looking out the window. I can see some Daleks outside.
Are you looking at the TARDIS window?
Yeah.
God, it must be the first Doctor's TARDIS then, when you could it opens like the window flaps at the front. never to be seen again.
Actually, hold on. I'm looking at the monitor, which shows me what's going on outside. Yes. And I can see Daleks out there.
Bring them in.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
So, just a quick bit of merch this week. We had some information through from our good friend, Mr. Andy Frankham Allen from Candy Jar, with an update on the Lethbridge Stewart range of books. So, I didn't know this. You probably did. Everyone else probably did. But the books have been grouped into a series or series
Yeah.
so far. Why didn't I know? I just thought it was just one big continuation, one after the other. But no, they have been grouped into series. And the first 2 series have been and gone already.
Yeah.
So series 2 ended with the Grandfather Infestation, which I've still yet to read, but it is on the list. However, we have got 3 new stories coming in October, which will kick off series 3. Most notably, the first book in series 3, called Times Squared, which is a direct sequel to The Web of Fear.
Oh, awesome.
So that's great news, isn't it?
Yes.
So really looking forward to that. That's an absolute pickup, especially if you're a fan of The Web of Fear, that story.
Yes.
And that's written by Rick Cross. The next story will be called Blood of Atlantis, written by Simon A. Ford. And the third story will be Mind of Stone, written by Ian McLaughlin. So 3 awesome titles there.
Yeah.
And yeah, Times Squared. The Web of Fear is such a great story.
It is brilliant, yeah.
And to have a sequel, yay.
Yeah, these guys, I think you said this the other week, they're kind of knocking it out of the park with these books at the moment, aren't they? To think we're already going into series 3 of them is quite something, actually.
It's unbelievable, yeah. So the next one, Times Squared, as you can guess from the title, is set in New York. With our friendly monsters, the Yeti, set in the underground or the subway of New York City.
Brilliant.
So that's going to be good. And then, the other 2 titles are on the way. So one thing I would say about the Lethbridge Stewart books is always keep your eye on the Candy Jar website and always follow. Make sure you follow Andy Frankham-Allen on Twitter, because these guys frequently throw up 3 for 2, 10% off, discount codes, all that stuff. And it's getting to the point now where readers who haven't jumped in to the range of books yet might start getting that feeling like, crikey, there's been like 7 books already, and now you're talking about series 3 and another. So that's going to be, is it 10 to 10 books altogether? And I haven't really, where do I start? From the beginning, can I pick up any of them? Are they standalone? So what I would say is, absolutely, if you haven't read any of these books yet, absolutely pick up the first one, The Forgotten Son. Get that one in the bag first, and then just keep your eye on the Candy Jar site and their Twitter, and Andy Frankham-Allen, who's the author and sort of overseer. He's like the Moth equivalent at Candy Jar books, isn't he? He like oversees everything. So just keep your eye on all that stuff. And you've probably seen them as well, mate, haven't you? They always throw up a discount code or some kind of offer quite regularly. Yeah. But that's great news. I'm really glad that they're keeping it going, and it's going to start next month.
Yeah, it's a great range. Yeah, very pleased to see it carrying on. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, so that will look good on the shelf.
It will, on that ever Boeing bookshelf.
The Boeing bookshelf, yeah.
It's like that.
Right. News and merch done. Let's move on to our review story. Adam, you little maggot. Or should I say Adam?
Yes, come on, let's have the accent.
Adam, please tell us, what are we going to be reviewing this week?
Not sure where that was. This week, it's maggot infestation. It is, of course, the Green Death.
The facts offer it as the only logical solution.
Well, it won't work, I tell you.
Oh, you are mistaken. I can't be wrong. I am infallible.
Really? Then try this one. If I were to tell you that the next thing I say will be true, but that the last thing I said was a lie, would you believe me?
The matter is not relevant.
Check.
Well, it can be worked out. Yes.
Go on.
Your statements do not correlate. They are incompatible. It is not a valid query. Give me time, Doctor. I shall work it out. I shall work it out. It cannot be answered. But I will work it out. I shall work it out. I must.
Check and mate.
Check and mate.
There you go. See how easily defeated these computers are.
Yes, with just a simple riddle, puzzle, question, whatever.
It took me a minute to get my head around it when he first said it. I'll admit I did rewind it to say, what was he? What? But that was very clever.
Very clever. Right. The Green Death was out. It was broadcast. In May it started in 1973.
73, eh? God.
It's a 6-parter, and it's part of Series 10. Written by Robert Sloman and Barry Letts. Barry Letts is uncredited, but he did throw his 2 cents in. Directed by Michael Bryant and overseen by Mr. Dix. And yes, as we all know, starring Mr. Pertwee as the third Doc. So, story.
Please refrain from referring to me as Doc.
Right. Story is as follows. Down in the, it's set in South Wales, and down in the mines, some dude dies, and when they find him, he's got all glowing green stuff over him. And so that's there's like this sort of ruthless, sort of horrible management team who have basically been making a lot of money off these guys in the mines, but now they've shut it down, everyone's unhappy, and now they're going to start doing something else, which will result in lots of horrible chemicals and everything being released into the atmosphere. Jo finds out about this at the very beginning, so she's off to Wales to support those guys and find out what's going on. The Doctor's off to Metabilis 3, which is a hilarious scene, which we'll come on to. Or as the 11th Doctor would say, Metabilis 3. I'll leave you guys to debate that one. However, on this show, he's off to Metabilis 3. When he returns, he's like, no way, not up for that. So I'm going to go and join Jo and the brig, find out what's going over there. It turns out that these greedy company managers are actually being controlled by a supercomputer who's gone nuts. And there's also, as a result of the horrible stuff that's being spewed out, we have these giant maggots, etc., etc.
With very sharp teeth.
Which are very famous for the episode, these giant maggots, larvae, whatever you want to say. So that's the Green Death.
Yes.
Very roughly. Right, so 6 parts, as we've said. How did you watch this one? I watched it. I did 3 and 3. I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, I did. I did sort of 2, 3, and 1, but it wasn't really. It was more the fact that I was trying to watch it when I was allowed, more than anything. I think it probably works better actually if you break it up slightly. To be fair,
2 and 2 maybe.
Yeah, I could have by episode 2. I could have happily watched episode 3. I just didn't have time. So yeah, so I broke it up a bit like you. Yeah.
Yep. I would say that a good way to watch these old ones is if you're a purist, is to do 1 a week for a while. However, if you're, starting a marathon or you're into a marathon, that's 6 weeks, to one story. So that's going to take you an awful long time to get through. If you're doing like a Doctor's run, if you're watching all of Pertwee stuff, that'll take you forever.
That's quite mad when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, 6 weeks. I mean, 6 weeks is like, back in the old days when Red Dwarf was on, that's a series of Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
So, for one story, it's pretty nuts. So this day and age with the DVD and all that stuff, or the digital downloads from BBC Store, you can probably do it in a week, I would say.
Yeah. easily.
Easily, yeah. So the Green Death. What do you reckon?
I enjoyed it, actually. I thought it was good.
Actually?
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. In my head, I always remember it being quite a good one. And I was a bit worried, actually, when I first started watching it, because the first 2 episodes, although they were good, my initial feeling was, it's not as good as I remember, if you know what I mean. And then normally these 6-parters, they tail off and sort of lag a bit, don't they? And I actually found this one sort of almost got going after the first 2 episodes. So, yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's perfect, but I do think it's a good story. And I think it's a really nice send-off for Joe. So, yeah, overall, yeah, I like this one. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's okay. I don't mind it.
Oh, right, okay. See,
Yes.
I've always considered it a bit of a classic, this one. That's what I mean. When I first started watching it, I just was thinking, it's not quite the, you know, like when you put Inferno on and it's like, this is just brilliant. This started off a bit, I wasn't too sure, but it's not quite as good as I remember it, but I still thought it was really good. But it's not one that grabs you that much then?
No, I think it's good. I think it's a good story and stuff. But I do every time, I say every time I watch it, I think this is maybe the 3rd or 4th time I've seen it now. But I remember having the same thought process after each time I've watched it, and that was, it's good. It's a good watch, but I don't see why, a lot of people put it quite highly up.
Yeah,
the list,
yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And I think my main reason for that is because it just takes forever to kill these damn maggots. They're not exactly the most threatening and scary monsters to appear in Doctor Who at this point. But yeah,
they're not the most ferocious monster, are they? But they are sort of gross. But that's about. I know what you mean. They don't really do. Like if you'd seen them attack somebody, like almost like one of the Cybermats, like the early Cybermats, they used to jump up someone's neck or something. You don't see much of that, do you? No. Maybe if we'd seen a bit more. Don't want to sound like a League Gentleman character here, but a bit more killing. How many killings is it as you go on it? But yeah, maybe if we'd seen a bit more of them attacking it, it probably would have ramped up the threat a little bit. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yes, and so that was it. Yeah, so they weren't very. Because every time that we see the maggots, they're just sort of very lazily limping around, not really doing much. And it turns out that they're armor plated and stuff. So we have the brig unloading, does nothing, and then his matey with the rifle does nothing. They drop some bombs out of a helicopter, it does nothing. You just think, oh, come on.
Yeah, and it ends up being defeated by fungus, doesn't it?
It ends up by fungus.
Yeah,
which is unexpected, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I just feel like because with some stories for me, it can drag on a bit overall, and you think, right, come on, this is turning into a bit of a difficult watch. But with this one, the story overall is not too bad. I didn't find it a drag. I just found that aspect of it a bit labouring.
Yeah,
the whole maggot thing. But overall, pretty good. And the Doctor's very good. He has some great scenes, yeah. Yes, right. So we pick up the story with the Doctor and Joe outside the TARDIS with a great little scene, actually. When she's reading the paper and she's obviously quite perturbed about what she's read, and the Doctor's banging on about, repairing this, his coordinate programmer, which is basically an old... you got to love the props, haven't you, from Classic Who, which is basically an old Scalextric thing with wires hanging out of it.
Yeah.
He's banging on about going to Metamelis 3. She's banging on about going to South Wales to sort this out. And they're sort of talking over each other. They're not talking at each other. And they sort of get off and, they get up to go away. And she's like, well, what are you talking about? Or what are you talking about? And they have this really nice little... At this point in the story, they get on really well, don't they?
Oh, they were a great team. I thought, yeah. I don't know why Joe's wearing the Fifth Doctor's outfit, but they are a great team at this point. Yeah.
Oh, the cricket jumper.
Well, actually, I should say it's her outfit, and the Fifth Doctor's wearing it later on. Actually, thinking about it, but yeah, it's a very reminiscent of his costume, isn't it? What she's got on at the start of this. Yeah. But that is a lovely scene, yeah, because they, like you said, they're just almost like a couple in a way. They're just like you do, chatting about each other's things, neither listening to each other. As we do. Yeah.
Do you know what? Their relationship reminds me of one of those couples that you see that have been around for so long, and they've been married for so long that almost like the romantic side of thing isn't there. That's gone. It's just that companionship.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that I always think that with the Third Doctor and Joe. And it's not, it's really that really comes through in this episode, like Joe's final episode, especially at the beginning, at the very end. So at the beginning, they have this thing where they're so relaxed with each other, and they don't mind each other's company. They're just chatting away, like I said. And then at the end, obviously, which we'll come on to.
There's great affection, isn't there? Great affection between the two of them. I think on and off screen. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that I did like, actually, is this opening scene and the way that the story gets going.
Mm-hmm.
They get started. It's not a typical the TARDIS. It's not a typical the TARDIS has landed somewhere, and it's like the Doctor walks out of the TARDIS, and then literally within 3 seconds he's like, something isn't right, and they're off. This is just like the Doctor's got a plan. He's going to Metebelis 3. That's it. Joe's read the paper. She's got a plan. She's going there. That's it.
Yeah.
The brig walks in. He's miffed that the Doctor and Joe are not going to investigate this fellow with the green stuff over him.
Yeah.
And they go their separate ways, and that's it. And then we're off, and then they meet up again. So that's a part of it I did really like. It was a slightly different start.
Yeah.
To an adventure.
Yeah, and we get to Metebelis 3 as well, that we actually get to see it, because it's been mentioned, I think, a couple of times up till now, from what I remember. I think he's sort of, the Doctor's mentioned that he wants to go there, so he finally gets to go there.
That's right.
In this one,
yeah.
And it doesn't turn out to be the paradise planet that he was expecting, because he sort of steps out the time, a bit like you do when you step off the plane on holiday. It's like, just soak in this blue sunset, take it all in, and before he knows it, he's got like a giant tentacle wrapped around him. And I bet you were laughing at his face.
I'd say
he did the classic Pertwee grimace
with the cross-eyed,
that he does. Yeah. Oh, I bet you were laughing.
I'll tell you something, mate. I laughed so hard because it was like a cartoon moment. I mean, we're fast forwarding a little bit here, but it's near the beginning, we're not going too far forward, but where he steps out of the TARDIS and he looks around, and it's almost like that cartoon sound effect of like the whip, like whoosh, and this tentacle's like wrapped around his neck, and he's off. So, and then he's getting chased all over the place. And by the time he gets back to the TARDIS, he's like covered in like grime and dirt. His
jacket's ripped as well, and I was like, no, his lovely jacket is all ripped at the side. Oh.
It's so funny because it's a real good visualization of like you as the viewer. I guarantee that so many people said to the TV, or they said to the person they were watching it with, I bet he wished he went to South Wales now with Joe, because as soon as he steps out of the TARDIS, that's it. He just gets his ass kicked all over the place, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's snakes and stuff. I don't know how he finds time to pick up the crystal, the blue crystal, along the way. But yeah, he like literally for the second he steps out, he's getting battered across the planet. I will just say, while we're talking about Metebelis 3, I think the actual it's a very simple effect, just putting this filter on it, but I do think it looks visually quite nice. Obviously, it's just filmed in a quarry pit down in probably very close to the mining station that they're in later on, but it does look quite good, I think, with the TARDIS, on location and this blue filter and the sky and everything. I thought, I could believe he'd gone to another planet, if you like. Yeah,
that looked pretty good.
Yeah,
and we go back to Metebelis 3, don't we? At the end of Pertwee's run.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Planet of the Spiders.
The spiders with the very high voices. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we didn't see any spiders in the little clip where he's getting his bum kicked everywhere. It's just snakes and giant tentacles that come out of nowhere.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, we don't, do we?
No.
Why? How? We must just say that. How did they get the name wrong in that? It's in Hyde, isn't it? Where the Doctor.
Hyde, yeah.
What does he call it? Metebelis.
Metebelis
3.
Yeah.
Like, I can never understand. They go to all the effort of putting that little continuity in there, and then they go and get the name wrong, pronunciation wrong. I could never understand how that slipped through. But anyway,
I remember Twitter exploding when he said Metebelis.
So this is one of those things. Non-geeks would be just like totally like what that, and anybody who knows, anybody that's passionate about these things would just explode. Like, I must admit, I don't think I exploded when I heard it, but I remember just sitting there going, what was that? And like rewinding it later on and just thinking, oh dear.
Yeah.
Epic fail sort of thing. Nice try, but
yeah. Well, I had
the thought was there.
Yeah. Well, I had the obligatory eye roll from the missus at that point.
Yeah.
When I was like, what? Why? Why did he say it like that? It's not right. John Pertwee didn't say it like that. Why did he say it like that? And she's just, here we go. Her face
is one of those tiny little details though that you think if you're going to put it in there, you may as well get it right. Or not bother.
Absolutely. I mean, there is a little quirky thing, isn't there? Every Doctor's different, and every Doctor's got his own thing, and
Yeah.
But this is important stuff.
Absolutely.
This is not just, the location of the chip shop down the road.
No, it's not Sid's Calf.
No, this is an important, canon historical planet, which is, resulting in the regeneration of one of the best Doctors.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be just, nonchalantly said, flippantly, willy-nilly, incorrectly.
Absolutely. I'm 100% agree with you.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
What
so
were we saying?
Put that to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he comes back. They head down to Wales. Doctor, because he's not really interested in this bloke that's been found with a glowing green neck to begin with. But then I think when he comes back from Metebelis 3, he's just like, I may as well go and join him then and get stuck in. Thank goodness he does, because otherwise the world could be overrun by giant maggots and giant flies by now if he hadn't have gone down there.
That's very true. And it is. You do wonder why. I mean, it sort of links together at the end, the blue crystal that he nabs from, that he thieves
somewhere.
From,
yeah.
It does, you can see why they did it, because at the end he needs it so he can get people out of sort of the trance that, the sort of mind control they've been under. So, the story does link, but you do wonder why he's so desperate to go there.
Yeah, I wondered that as well, because he seems to think it's some sort of idyllic place, and he really desperately wants to take Joe there, doesn't he? He's like, you've got to see it.
Yeah,
because it kind of reminds me of when I took my sister down to Port Mary, and I was like, oh, it's the most beautiful place, you're going to love it. Absolutely poured down the range, couldn't wait to leave. It's just
always the way. Yeah. But you would think that when the brig walks in and he starts selling a Doctor about a guy they found dead with like glowing green stuff, you'd have thought the Doctor would be all over that.
Well, you'd have thought, yeah.
But no, he's just, no, Metebelis, I'm there. Nothing's going to stop me.
That's it. The trunks are packed, I'm off.
The trunks, yeah. Got me sombrero. I'm out. But yes, so that adventure's very short-lived, isn't it?
Yeah.
After the very funny...
I really want to watch that scene again, actually, just to see it.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been. It'd be great if you opened up some music. Oh, it just all goes wrong.
It almost needs the Benny Hill music in the background, doesn't it?
Yeah. Actually, that would work incredibly well with that. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. So it is funny. They try to be very serious with it. It's very like the Doctor's landed in a very hostile, dangerous place. But I think that's just John Pertwee. I think that's why he works just so amazingly as Wurzel Gummidge, because even when he's trying to be emotional or sad or angry, his face is just, I don't know what it is. It's just, especially in any fight scene with Jon Pertwee or any scene where he's getting sort of roughed up or anything like that, it's just so funny. And it's not meant to be. It's meant to be like bang on serious. But I don't know. It's just how he comes across in his face. It's just so funny.
And he talking of fights, he does get to do some of his Venusian Aikido in this one, doesn't he? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I mean...
Venetian Aikido. He does get to do a bit of that. I think it's once he gets down to Wales, isn't he?
That's it, yeah.
Sort of lets off a bit of steam and does a bit of the old Venusian. Yeah... I did see. That is one of the things I do love about Purvis Doctor is he does get stuck in to the action. What are you laughing at? Him doing the Venetian Aikido? Gary is gone.
No, it's when he gets down to South Wales, he lets off a bit of steam.
Well, you would if you just returned from a disastrous holiday to Metebelia Street. You'd be pretty angry as well. You just take it out on the first person you meet who happens to be a security guard at a chemical plant. Yeah.
Crikey!
Yeah, he has to let off a bit of steam.
Oh, yes.
He does get to dress up though, actually, as well, because you were saying about him doing like Wheels of Gummidge, and obviously he's well known for doing voices and characters. And in this one, it does play into Jon Pertwee's hands quite a bit, doesn't he? Because he gets to dress up as a milkman and then do a comedy voice, and he gets to dress up as a washerwoman and do some bit of camp humour with Mike Yates. So this does play into Pertwee's hands quite a bit, this episode, I think.
It does.
For the better.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So the Venetian Aikido. Yeah. Hey!
Yeah.
He's got all that going on, yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, he does. He does hand out a few slaps, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yes, he's not afraid to get stuck in. Yeah,
and it's not a stunt double at all.
Ooh, well, I think he's there for the standing up bits.
No, it is a stunt double. Absolutely.
I know it is.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the close-ups and when he's standing up, just doing like the moves. It's because the hair changes as well, doesn't it? It's the wig goes. The stunt double's wig's much darker, I think. Yeah, it's quite noticeable. Yeah. It's probably Terry Walsh or something like that, I should think. Yeah. So back to the opening scene. I don't want to dwell on it too long because we've got quite a bit of story to get through. Mm-hmm. It's a great way to start the story, I think.
Yeah, it does show that nice relationship between the Joe and Doctor, which you need as it's Joe's last story, so you sort of need to see that. But also I think it does show that Joe's becoming independent, that little scene at the start, doesn't it? Because the Doctor's a little bit taken aback that she doesn't want to go. He's like, well, really? Because she normally does sort of follow him around, and I was going to say like a puppy, but that's a bit detrimental to Joe because she's much better than that. But you know what I mean? Normally she'd jump in there and be up for it, but this time she's starting to become a bit independent, and the Doctor's a bit taken aback, I think, which obviously carries on throughout the story leading up to her departure. So it's quite it's a nice little scene, quite important little scene as well. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And actually, it's not the opening scene, is it, in the first episode? Because the opening scene is the workers, the mine workers who are protesting outside.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So it's not the actual, because the opening scene is the guy in the mine who collapses with the glowing stuff over him, and then we have the protesters outside Global Chemicals.
Yeah.
And we first meet our very
Global Chemicals.
Yes. We meet Professor Jones, don't we? The environmentalist guy who ends up basically telling Joe that they're getting married.
Now, you said, yeah.
Well, we get married, aren't we? Are we?
It's a bit of a sudden, I was going to say, the thing is, I do love the way their relationship progresses in this, because I do find it believable. I thought, Joe I can see Joe falling for somebody like that. I could see why she's interested in him. So I do buy into their relationship totally. And I think it's a real nice send off for Joe. But then that bit at the end just slightly ruins it for me when he's like, and get married, and because they've only known each other 3 days.
Well, this was the 70s, mate.
Yeah,
that's what you did back then.
True.
Especially down in the valleys. If you found a nice lady, then you were honest immediately. You none of this dating lark, none of this courting.
Yeah.
You just got on with it.
Fair enough.
That's the early 70s, mate.
It does make for a nice moment. I'll give it that. And it's, as I said, I do believe in it. Unlike some of the companions, their leaving scenes aren't always the best.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I do buy it. I buy into it. I think she would do that. She would go off with him and travel.
Yeah.
So I totally get it.
What was that story that we reviewed fairly recently where the companion just didn't show up at the end?
Oh, that's one of my favourite stories for the first Doctor, actually. It's the time, my favourite story, and I can't remember the name of it. The War Machines.
The War Machines, that's it.
It's Dodo, isn't it?
Dodo, yeah.
It's like, where's Dodo? Oh, she said to say goodbye. She's not coming. Yeah. Oh, okay then. Bye.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's the War Machines there.
Yeah.
No, at least Jo gets a good send off, I think, because she's one of the companions that I would rate one of my favourites. I really like Jo Grant.
She's cool.
Katie Manning, yeah. So I'm glad she gets a good set. I'm glad she doesn't like get killed off or like some of them just there's no build up and she just leaves. Or what is it? What's one of the ones with Romana, the second Romana, her leaving thing.
Oh, it's just a
Oh no! Actually, no. I always get these mixed up. Yeah, there's that. Well, her leaving thing's a bit random as well, but also Leela just suddenly decides she's fallen in love in whichever episode it is. I forget now, and it's just dreadful. And you just sort of think, well, Leela wouldn't fall in love with that guy. What's going on? It's just, so at least I believe in this exit for a companion. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. There have been some
hit or miss.
Some not great departures.
Yeah.
This one's not too bad.
No, it's a good one, I think.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Let's go forward then to that scene where she first meets Professor Jones.
Clifford Jones.
And she just turns up and trashes the place, basically, doesn't she? And,
yeah.
She gets on his nerves a bit. And you're right. It's a good way for them to start because they don't admit it's not that they sort of clap eyes on each other and they fall in love and that soppy stuff. They actually, they don't really like each other, do they? To begin with, they're a bit irritated by each other's company for a few minutes, but then they sort of break the ice a bit. He sort of tells a little joke, doesn't he? And then they're into it, but it's a pretty good scene actually. It's a good way to get them going, if you like.
Yeah, because she's sort of interested in what he's doing. I think is what starts it. Because like you said initially, yeah, she probably annoys him a little bit. But yeah, it's quite nice because she's sort of quite fascinated by him. Like you said, it's not rather than clapping eyes on each other and being like, oh, love at first sight. She's just sort of into his personality, and she likes this sort of hippie type character, doesn't she? So,
yeah.
Which I think Jo would. Yeah.
Yes. And he's an interesting character because he's not like, because at the very beginning he's the one that mouths off a bit, isn't he, to the boss who's speaking to the other protesters, and he's trying to drive his point home that they're all just being used, with cheap labor and stuff, and and it's cool that his character holds on to that throughout the entire story, because even right up until the end, he doesn't waver, does he? He's still, he's got that sort of strong-minded, and I think that's one of the things that Jo likes about him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's probably because at this point, Katie Manning and Stuart Bevan were actually a couple in real life, weren't they?
That's right.
So I don't know if that made it easier or more difficult to actually, be partners on screen. I think he wasn't like they didn't give him the job just because he was Katie's partner. I think that he had to I think basically, from what I understand from the making of, they struggled to find somebody right for the part.
Right. Yeah.
And then basically she said, well, look, why don't you go along? Because they can't find anyone. And they thought, yeah, he's got the right look and stuff. And I mean, we may as well talk about Stuart while we're on this bit. I actually think he gives a really nice performance. I know his Welsh accent is a bit hit or miss.
It can be at times, yeah.
Yeah, it can be a little, especially when we first meet him. It's a little bit distracting, I think, because it does sound a bit put on at times. But I do think he's a nice character, and I think Stuart Bevan gives quite a good little performance in it, actually. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether that's because him and Katie were, together in real life off screen, that sort of closeness comes through on screen or what, but I think I like the scenes of them two together. I sort of really like them as a couple. Mm-hmm. I think they're really sort of sweet together, if you like, for want of a better word. But I like him in this. I like Stuart Bevan.
Yeah, I mean, I think Doctor Who in terms of TV was the biggest thing that he did.
Yeah,
in terms of TV, I think he had little roles in some other. He was in Blake Seven, mate.
Yes, he was, and which I don't know which episode it was, because I just love Blake Seven, but I can't remember him in it. But he probably looked different. I don't remember. He's probably like got short hair or something. But yes, I think he did a few little bits around then. Yeah. But his acting's not too bad, is it? I mean, that's what I mean. The accent is a bit distracting for a while, but once you get used to it, I think his acting's pretty good. He's not sort of too wooden or too comical, because there is somebody in this, which we'll get onto when we speak about the rest of the cast, who I think is a bit silly and over the top, and is very typical of sort of like this era, when we used to get people like that just, you sort of get actors that are sort of down the line and quite believable and suit it, and then you get people who seem to come in and just, you can just tell they're acting and they're just a bit over the top. So but I think he's good. I think he's quite decent in his performance, Stuart Bevan.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then we have some so as we get sort of further into the story, we've seen the maggots. We get to see the maggots fairly early on, I would say. Also we get the Brig turn up, don't we?
Oh yeah, let's not forget the Brig.
Brig. Yes. He turns up at the beginning. He's obviously still running UNIT. He considers the Doctor and Joe employees of UNIT. Still wants them on the mission. They tell him to bugger off. But then Joe says, yeah, I'm in, sort of thing, give me a lift. So the Brig is involved all the way through. So he gets down to South Wales in his very nice white convertible sports car and drives it into the middle of the muddiest field. So you can imagine that his car would have been, just wrecked, full of mud and horribleness. So UNIT are involved. We have a few scenes with your good friend,
John Levine. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if we fast forward a little bit, so the Brig's there, and he's trying to sort of unravel the situation at Global Chemicals, isn't he? He's very much sort of investigator for the first 2 or 3 episodes, I would say. He's trying to find out what's going on, and the guy that's running the place, to publicly facing is running the place, is very standoffish and very, what would you say?
Is this Stevens?
You're
talking about,
yeah.
He's shifty, I think I would.
He's crafty, isn't he? Bit crafty.
Shifty. Yeah, he's a bit shifty.
He's got those shifty eyes.
I'll tell you what I love about the Brig in this, though, because I think Nicholas Courtney is really good in this episode. But he doesn't necessarily get a lot to do, but he's like this sort of he's sort of in the background. I think he's quite strong in the scenes he's in, because he's very he's like a presence all the way through the episode. So even when he's not in scenes, you sort of get the feeling that the Brig's there investigating it, if you know what I mean. I quite liked his performance. Like, he's really sort of strong and hitting the nail on the head when he's actually on screen. But he doesn't sort of get to do an awful lot in terms of what we've seen the Brig doing previously. Like, there's no sort of scenes of him running around shooting, and he just seems to be controlling everything from behind the scenes, which I quite like, actually, rather than sort of seeing him running out shooting maggots and stuff. He's like there coordinating UNIT, which is what the Brigadier should be doing, if you know what I mean. He's sort of talking to the Prime Minister, and he just seems to be in the background a little bit more in this, but it does work quite well, I think. No, and you get, I'll tell you what I do love about this as well, you get to see like the unit team have become quite a family with the Doctor and Joe by this point, haven't they? So there's a real closeness to Unit and the Doctor, and like you said earlier about the Brig getting annoyed that the Doctor wasn't interested initially in this, and there was a time when the Brig would be trying to keep your nose out, like leave it to Unit, and by this point he very much wants the Doctor involved. So that's quite a nice progression. But I love the scenes later on when the Doctor and the Brig and Joe and that are all just getting lashed up on the wine, and there's a great scene where they're just all relaxing, and you sort of see how the Unit and the Doctor have become quite a sort of tight knit family, which I thought was really nice. Yeah,
no, it was good.
So yeah, love. I mean, I know we always say we like Nicholas Courtney, but there was a story. Was it Battlefield where we said he didn't quite? Was it Battlefield?
It was Battlefield. Yeah. Yep. He didn't quite hit the mark,
right? Yeah. Whereas in this one, I think he really does. He just feels like he's in the background, holding it all together.
It feels like classic Brig.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And we also get a nice little instruction, don't we? 10 instead of 5 rounds rapid, it's
10 rounds rapid.
10, so he's upgrading.
I noticed that. Yeah,
10 rounds rapid. Doesn't quite have as much. It's not quite as much as a famous line as from the Demons, is it?
It almost feels like it didn't. Yeah,
the delivery. It isn't quite there. But anyway,
because it hasn't got the Chatwell wings. It's like I don't know how it would have been like the
slug with
slimy old maggot.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, he's great, isn't he, in this?
Yeah, Nicholas I do think he's good in it. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, he's cool. So the story, kind of, as you know, it's very typical with Who. The story sort of splits off between Doctor doing stuff and Companion doing stuff. So we have Jo sort of trapped, don't we? A bit further on, she's trapped with the miner, and the Doctor's on his way to see what's going on, and like you say, the Brig is kind of in the background trying to sort it all out, and then that's sort of the path of the course, really, because the first half of the story is about the Doctor. It's about trying to investigate what is going on with global chemicals and what's happening, why these people are dying in the mines with the green stuff. So that's sort of always there. But the first half really is the Doctor trying to save Jo, isn't it? Because she's down in the mines. The lift has broken, and she's with that guy. And so she's trying to get out. The Doctor and the Brig and some other people, they're trying to... No, the Brig's in with global chemicals, interrogating the Stevens guy. But the Doctor's trying to rescue her and so on. And then it sort of transitions over, doesn't it? So in the second half, we have the situation where Jo is sort of teamed up with Professor Jones. They sort of teamed up, haven't they? And they're going to try and, they're investigating what's going on with the fungus and the slugs and all the rest of it. And the Doctor's now sort of working with Unit, I would say, trying to figure out how to kill said slugs.
That's it. And we got Yates is undercover, isn't he, working in the chemical factory, sort of feeding him bits of information and stuff. I did have to laugh at that phone call they make where he's like so blatantly obvious, chatting to the Doctor, and he's going, "Yes, sir, they've got a lot of security," with the guy sort of right over his shoulder, and he's just giving him all this information, but trying to be subtle as a sledgehammer while doing it. Okay then, dear, get the tea on, bye. And the Doctor's like, "What?" Yeah.
So that's quite cool, I thought.
Having Yates as undercover?
Yeah, because you rarely see that.
No, it was a bit of a surprise, actually, because it's one of the elements of the story I'd forgotten about, is when he walks in and he's like, "May I introduce you to Mr. Yates, who's working for us?" Like, what's Yates doing there? I thought he'd turned traitor again. Yeah. But no, it's a bit strange. It does work quite well, though, I think, in the story.
It does work pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it would if Yates wasn't such a wet lettuce in it.
Yes.
But yeah.
A wet lettuce. But that's quite cool. And that's what I said originally. Overall, I think the story. I think it's a good watch. it's okay, because there are things like this which make it slightly different to what we've seen before or that we'll see in a while. So things like the way the story gets going, Yates going undercover, Jo sort of off doing her own thing and finally going, and the Doctor going off to Metebelis and quickly realising that it's not, Butlins after all, and he's back. So there are things like that. There are good components in the story.
Yeah,
there are good stuff, which leads on to sort of the bad guys. I would say the villains of the story. So before we get on to the boss, we have the guy that's he's like the monkey, isn't he?
Which one, Mr.? Because there's a couple, Mr.
Stevens, because
he is, but he's gone and got himself a pair of those new iPhone headphones, which look great.
He's got a pair of Beats. Yeah,
got the biggest.
But I would say that he's like up until what is it, episode 4? The end of episode 4, at least. We don't know about the crazy maniacal computer, do we?
No, it comes in much later. Yeah, 4 or 5. I can't remember now. Yeah,
we just assume it's Stevens, and there are 2 guys that are working with him, but they haven't been, they haven't gone under the brainwashing thing yet, have they?
No,
so
they haven't put the headphones on.
Exactly. So they're acting on his instruction, but they're not like sort of inherently bad people. They know that this isn't like, the right thing that they're doing with all these miners and all that sort of stuff. They know that, but they're still not intentionally wanting to cause anyone any harm, because one of the guys who works with him, I can't remember his name now, the guy with the glasses.
Is it Fell?
It could be.
Oh no, Elgin, the guy with the glasses.
Elgin, yes, sir.
From Coronation, from Crossroads.
Right, yeah. He knows that he really tries to help Jo and the miner who are stuck down in the mine, but he gets told to leave him.
What happens to him? Does he get killed, or does he just not? Because I've just suddenly I only watched this in the last few days, and I've completely forgotten. He doesn't just disappear, does he? Because I can't actually remember what. He seems quite prominent in the sort of first half of the story, but he seems to vanish halfway through, and I can't actually remember what happens to him.
Yeah.
Does he get killed?
I don't know. Something does happen. I don't think he gets killed.
I seem to remember him being hypnotised, but I don't know now. It's strange, because I've only just watched it, but I just suddenly realised he seems to disappear from the story, sort of, don't know, about 3/4 of the way in.
Yeah, he does.
Probably gets killed, because Fell jumps from the roof and commits suicide, doesn't he?
Yes.
And Elgin seems to be floating around. Yeah, that's strange. And I've only just watched it, but I can't remember what goes on with him. There
is a scene, isn't there, where Elgin has a conversation with Fell and says, something isn't right. We need to help out Jo and the Doctor, basically, but then Stevens, he does something to Fell, doesn't he? And he jumps off the balcony.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then after that, I don't think we see Elgin again. I'm sure he doesn't. I'm pretty sure he's not murdered in any way.
Well, that's what I'm trying to think. So I don't remember him being killed off, but I just can't remember him. He just seems to disappear from the story. Don't know. I'll have to pay more attention next time. I'm sure he does get an exit, but I just can't remember what it is. Because he seems to be in the background quite a lot in the first few episodes, sort of trying to. He's kind of like the good guy, isn't he? Saying to Stevens, what you're doing is wrong. This has got to stop, and all that. But obviously Stevens is under mind control, so he's having none of it. But there is a good scene, actually. He's talking about when Fell commits suicide. And this is what I like. We've got Stevens, who's at the moment the bad guy, potentially, because we haven't really met the boss computer yet. So we're assuming Stevens is just this megalomaniac. But actually, he's not, is he? He's a bit more rounded character than just the standard villain, because he has quite a lot of regret when Fell dies. He sort of says, doesn't he? There was no need for that. And so I like that. I like the fact they've given him a bit of a compassionate side, still the human feeling coming through, even under the control of recognizing, didn't need to kill him or whatever. So I thought that was quite good. Just made it a bit more interesting rather than having just a out and out baddie that doesn't care, blah, 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 So I quite liked Stevens. I thought the actor was quite good. I thought he's got that look as I said, he's very shifty. Yeah. So he's well cast, I thought, and I thought he gives a good performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, the opening scene where he stands up on the truck and he addresses all the workers, you do fall for it a little bit. You think that he's playing Mr. Good Guy.
Yeah.
But then that's, and he plays that very well. Then it quickly gets sort of dissolved into, no, you're a baddie.
Yeah.
You're a baddie. But that's because he's just been brainwashed, hasn't he? And he's under some sort of mind control from the boss.
It's quite nice, actually, at the end where you just see when he kind of flips and turns good.
He lets off some steam.
He lets off a bit of steam and wrecks all the computer equipment, and you just see that little tear rolling down his eye. So you almost feel sorry for Stevens by the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite good.
He has a Kylo Ren moment.
Yeah.
Who just destroys, the machine, the console, doesn't he? And
that's it. And the console nearly rolls across the floor when he steps on it. But yeah.
But that is quite touching, though, at the end with the little tear.
Yeah, well, I just like that. It's just because it's the sort of thing, it's just a nice bit of writing rather than because it didn't need to be there. And it's the sort of thing that probably could quite easily get overlooked, So it's just giving the character a bit more depth, which is one of the things that Classic Who is good at, these little moments. So yeah, I like that bit.
Yeah, which actually is one of the advantages to having multiple episodes per story, is that you do have the time to invest in the character progression. You do get that time to sort of buy into their motives or their reasons for doing stuff, because although the newer Doctor Who, don't get me wrong, it's great that it's all in one episode. It makes for a bit more of a fast moving, action packed stuff. This is going to be, I can't actually think of the episodes off the top of my head now, and even though I'm going to say it, there have been episodes where you think, it would have been nice to have spent a bit more time on these characters, because I didn't feel for them, because I wasn't emotionally connected, because they just came on and did this and that was that, and you couldn't buy into it because there wasn't enough time.
Yeah. So
in terms of feeling for the characters and buying into their situation, Classic Who definitely is there's a bigger pool for that stuff because there's more time.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple maths, really, isn't it? But yeah, Stevens, he bites the dust quite dramatically.
He does. He sacrifices himself for the greater good.
Yes, it all comes good in the end.
Yeah.
Right, shall we talk about the boss?
Yeah, let's talk about the boss, because this is interesting. I don't know if you agree with this, but I kind of feel it almost didn't need to have the boss in it, because I quite like this idea that they're pumping chemicals into the earth which create this monster that's going to sort of pollute the take over and stuff. I kind of get all that, but then we suddenly get introduced, I think you said in episode 4, which I think is right, get introduced to this sort of supercomputer that's actually behind it all and running it all. And I kind of felt, I suppose they'd thought they'd got to bring the science fiction element into it, maybe, rather than just having it down to sort of a natural cause. I don't know. I just kind of felt like I almost didn't need it. It's quite fun, though. I mean, I actually find the computer quite funny because it's very typical of the 70s pompous, sarcastic computer that we got back then. And I always find it fun to watch. So I'm kind of glad it's there, but I don't know if we really even needed that element to the story. You could have just had it that it was the nuclear plant had done all this by mistake and they'd got to stop it, if you know what I mean. Didn't really need the big computer behind it orchestrating it, I didn't think, but it does make it more fun, I suppose. It gives it keeps the story going for the rest of the remaining episodes, I suppose, in that sense.
Yeah, it's definitely I wouldn't say a twist, because we hear his voice, don't we? Before we actually,
quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so before
Stevens.
So it's kind of interesting in that way that we know quite early on that someone else is pulling the strings. Someone else is, the organ grinder. Should I say? Is that the right way around? Yeah.
Yeah, he's not the monkey; he's the organ grinder. Yeah.
So we know fairly early on that that's the case, and you assume it's just some maniacal, evil, sort of Bond villain type person up on the top floor, sort of stroking a cat.
Yeah.
You assume it's that kind of, higher, person who's a lot more evil than Stevens, who's up to this. But when we actually see it's a computer, it is a little bit, well, it's not really, like you say, it's not essential to the story.
But I kind of, like you said, I suppose it gives it an extra element. So you're probably right. It is good that it's there because it does carry the story on a bit more. Like you said, if it had just been Stevens behind it or someone else, it could have died off after episode 4. So it probably does need it. Maybe I'll take that back. But I was just thinking you've got quite a good sort of story going on there with the mutant maggots without adding in this big computer, because I wasn't sure where the computer had come from in the first place to begin with. Like I'm like, well, where has this computer come from? But I guess what do you think of it visually though? Like this big red, it's almost like a, what do you call it, a sound wave, isn't it, on a big red screen?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. I mean,
it's simple but quite effective, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite cool. I mean, in a way, it could have been some alien from another planet. We could have had a visitation thing going on.
I'm glad they didn't do that though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they could have done that, but it was quite cool they did something else.
We've got lots of spinning wheels like we used to get in the 70s. I love all that. They do absolutely nothing reel to reel, futuristic back then, but now. But I do love it though. Do love all that.
Yeah.
I think most of the sets from is it from UFO or something? It's all borrowed from another program, isn't it?
Yes,
because it looks quite familiar anyway. Yeah,
it's got that typical turquoisey and beige colour, and
lots of lights that do absolutely nothing.
Yes, the blinking lights and the little. So a lot of that sort of 70s, early 80s sci-fi, and they typically have like pieces of paper being printed out, like receipts that you get out of a cash machine. An ATM, it's like, and they do nothing either, do they? It's what is it? What's that stuff? But the sort of looks wise, it's pretty cool. I can't imagine that they were able to do much with that stuff back then. This is probably the best that they could get away with.
Yeah,
so it's fairly simple. It's just a giant round screen, isn't it, with a wave form as he talks, which is what you'd expect from that time. But it's the voice more than anything that I can't get my head into, because I accept it. Don't get me wrong, I accept it because it's meant to be like it's meant like a self-sufficient, self-thinking sort of computer with a personality, isn't it? So I get it, but it's singing at one point. It's like humming, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I didn't get that, and again, I thought perhaps I'd missed something, but I didn't get in episode 6, the last episode. It suddenly starts singing lots of classical music. It's really going for it. And I didn't quite understand why. Yeah, I thought there might be a reason, but you're the same. You didn't get it either.
Well, I think it's just trying to hammer home the fact that it's got a personality,
right? Okay.
And it's meant to sort of humanise it a little bit.
Because that started to annoy me. I'd quite liked him up until that point. I thought I quite liked this pompous, annoying computer in episode 5. But yeah, when he started doing all the singing and he said Stevens for about the millionth time, I started to get a bit annoyed with him, and I was quite looking forward to him blowing up, to be honest.
Yeah, and he does. So I think the story could have got away without it being there quite easily. It could have just been Stevens all along.
Yeah,
but and it was okay up to a point. But when it starts singing and humming and classical music and stuff, it sort of takes away not the seriousness, I guess, but it takes away the menacing, threatening aspect of it, because you just think, it's just a flipping computer that's humming along to...
You almost want to unplug it, don't you? But just switch it off at the plug.
Well, that's the thing, Back in the day, they didn't have, nuclear reactors powering things, like they have in superhero movies. They could have literally just, unplugged it from the wall.
He probably would have made that high-pitched sound every time. He probably wouldn't let you get near the plug. That's one thing my other half said. It was like, what is that sound? It's like, because it was really loud at one point, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The hypnotizing beam sound, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It was a bit high-pitched, But that's probably what happened. If you saw your hand going for the plug, you'd probably switch that on. Yeah.
Yes. What do you think about units in this story? I thought they were a bit too comedic in this for me.
Yes, I would agree with that, because I found Yates quite annoying, to be honest. I found our old mate Benton, well, he was all right. I mean, John Levine always puts gusto into his performance. You know what I mean? You could tell he's always trying to, be energetic, which is good. But yeah, it was a bit too comedic. I mean, when he's like throwing out the food at the end and going, what's he saying?
Come
here,
on.
here. Come and get your food. And the doctor's, not impressed. And yeah, they were a bit comedic. I agree. Not the best unit story.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because the Brig's so strong and so orchestrated. It's a shame actually that you haven't got them a bit more in force when they're trying to kill off the maggots. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that I found, the thing that I took away from this story is that unlike other unit stories, which were very good, where it feels like it's a very much a joint effort with the Brig running a very strong team. In this one, it felt like the Brig was a school teacher and that he was taking like a bunch of kids on a field trip. And he was, having to sort of manage a class of students rather than, a highly trained, platoon of soldiers.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I don't think it's the strongest story for unit. Yeah, which it could have been with the threat and everything. But yeah, I would agree. I think it is more the fact the comedy element, doesn't it? Just takes away their sort of power a little bit. I mean, shall we talk about Yates? Because he is Richard Franklin. I mean, he's giving a sort of almost, like you said, almost borderline comedic performance. And he just, when he's doing his fight scenes and stuff, I just don't feel he was really giving it. I don't feel like he's taking it seriously, to be honest. I almost feel like he came in that day. He did that scene with John Pertwee dressed as a washerwoman. They all had a barrel of laughs about it. And from that moment on, he just kind of came, wasn't in the zone. I didn't really like Yates in this story. In that fact, because I mean, he's got quite a good. Normally, Yates is just in the background with Levine doing what they do, but in this, he's given something to do, and I think he should have grabbed it a bit more. He's got to be the undercover unit agent in this big thing. So I didn't really think Yates was that great in this story. If anything, I preferred Benton because he was at least throwing stuff around and doing things, and being a unit soldier, whereas Yates was just pushing people into lifts with about as much force as an old granny.
Yeah, true.
Okay,
that's cool. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Yates. He's absolutely had stronger performances in other stories, but.
And I did have to laugh when the Brig pats him on the back at the end and says, "Better luck next time, Yates," or something. Because obviously there was a mild love interest between Yates and Katie and Joe Grant, wasn't there? He's lost out to Clifford Jones.
His little face is crushed in it at the end for that split second before he says congratulate. He's just.
It's a nice thing of the Brig to do, but it just made me laugh. I was like, as if
the one that got away.
Yeah.
Actually, in a slight sort of change of process for us, we've actually talked about the characters as we've gone through. So let's finish up with Joe then before we get on to the Doctor. That final scene where she gets told that they're getting married, and they all come in and congratulate. It's you kind of know, don't you, at that point, that where it's just her and Clifford Jones together, and that from that point on you already know that she's off, because you can see that they've fallen for each other, haven't they? You can see that she's found the one, sort of thing.
Yes.
And it's coming as well, don't you? I think the first time I watched it, I remember thinking she's gone.
Yeah, I like how we build up to it though, because you do know it's coming.
Yeah,
you think, they've bonded. She's off. She's found her man. But yeah, I like the fact it's their relationship progresses through the episode, and builds up to her going off with him.
Yeah, it's cool, and I think they work quite well together. I mean, maybe that had something to do with the fact that they were a couple. But they definitely work, especially towards the end. Maybe he was hoping that it would turn into a real life proposal as well, maybe. I'm not sure, but it's definitely, I mean, that last scene, I mean, how do you feel about the Doctor just sort of slipping away quietly at the end. He doesn't make a big hoo-ha, does he? He just necks his glass of champers and he's off.
I absolutely love the last scene. I just watched it this morning. I love it. I just can't say it enough. I just find it a beautifully directed, written, performed scene. The Joe and Cliff are together. They're having a send off with the unit guys.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I love the fact that we've got to know the unit characters and so well at this point. And the Doctor, thing is, it's no shock to Doctor. He's noticed straight away that there's an attraction between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some really nice scenes over the course of the story where he picks up on it, isn't it? There's one bit where they're sort of about to kiss when the Doctor walks in, and he takes him off, doesn't he? He tries to take him away because he knows what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit, you almost feel sorry for her face when she thinks she's going to have a night of passion, I think. And the Doctor scuppers it, doesn't he? Let's go and have a look at these fungus specimens. And it's like, her little face as Cliff's taken away from her. But you do get to see the Doctor picking up on the fact that they have become close, and he knows it's going to happen just like we do. I think it's great. I like the fact it's really sad when he leaves and Joe just turns around and acknowledges that he's quietly slipped off.
Yeah.
And that's quite sad. And then, I don't know, I just think it's really nice because it's given room to breathe. Like we get the Doctor having a slow walk up to Bessie. We get a nice close up of John's face, reflecting on it, thinking, I don't know what, you can only imagine what the Doctor's thinking. Is he thinking, should I go back in?
Yeah,
No, it's best I leave. And it's just a really lovely, I almost feel that's, you get to see the Doctor and John Pertwee in that little shot of his face. He probably sat there thinking, because he got on so well with Katie Manning, didn't he? I think he probably did. He probably just channeled everything just for that shot of him contemplating before thinking, right, onwards and upwards, she's gone.
That's it. Yeah,
and I think I love it. I think it's a beautiful send off.
I think it's one of the nicest ways that we've seen a companion go, because she's not broken down into a huge puddle of tears, and because she's been told she has to go, or for whatever reason she can't go with the Doctor. She hasn't been killed. She hasn't been any of that stuff. She's just found someone. She's happy. And you could view it as sad. It is quite sad because you see the Doctor's little face.
Yeah, and you see Joe's little face.
Yeah. And he does it again, doesn't he? Sort of when he gets out and he gets into Bessie, he has another final look across. And you do think, is he going to get out? Is he going to go back and, say something or join the party or whatever? But no, he drives off, and that's it, isn't it? The credits roll.
But it's a lovely last shot, isn't it, of Bessie going across the sunset?
Yeah.
Great. So, it could be, it's done well, because that could be cheesy. You know what I mean? It could be, they could have hammed it up a bit more. And I don't think they do. I think they play it really straight, and I find it quite effective. I wouldn't say I was sat there bawling my eyes out, but I certainly choked up, because I think because they're such a good team, the Doctor and Joe, they are such a good team, in my opinion, that it is sad to think they've come to an end. Yeah. So I can't fault it. I think this story, perhaps that's why I regard it more highly than some, is because I just really like the ending. Yeah the send off.
Yes. And the Doctor himself, Mr. Pertwee, great in this. Yep,
he is good in it, isn't he? Yeah, all the way through. I mean, he's so comfortable in the role at this point. And the show's going under changes. We're getting into, what series was this? We're getting
10.
So is the next series his last? It must be, because
it will be.
Yeah, so he's getting towards the end. Yeah, so it's as I say, so comfortable in the role. He obviously knew Kate was leaving, and a lot of changes going on with him, off screen, in terms of what's going on behind the scenes in the show. Pertwee's great in it. I thought his act is superb. He throws himself into the action.
Yep.
He looks great throughout. He's got his cape going on. The bit where he uses his cape to bring down the giant mutated fly, I thought was superb.
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought of the fly, but
it was.
I did.
it was what it,
it's of the time.
It's of the time, yes.
Yeah, but I can't fault Jon Pertwee in this in terms of his performance. I find him engaging when he's on screen. He's charismatic. He's humorous. He's serious. He does the silly voices. He kind of gets everything in this one. And he plays the end scene brilliantly. So for me, he's fantastic in it.
Yeah, he's really good. And when he gets the Welsh accent very well. Sorry, when he's dressed up as the milkman.
Yes.
And when he's dressed up as the cleaning lady. Really funny. So like you said, a lot for him to do, and he probably loved when he got the script for this. He probably thought, yes, there's loads for me to do in this one. But yeah, he's just great overall. I can't fault him in this one. So yeah, he has a good fight scene. Gets to dress up. He has his grimace, cross-eyed face going on. There's a couple of bits of humour, and it's sort of all culminates with that very poignant scene at the end where he's off on his own. So it's just great. It's great to watch him in every episode in this one.
He seems so comfortable, doesn't he, in the role?
Yeah.
It's like when he's like saying to the Brigadier about in the last episode, the guard at the factory saying, "No one's coming in. You're not coming in." And Pertwee turns to the brigand. It's like, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, don't bother coming to get me. It's like, well, no. He said there'd be no point because I'll be dead. And he's just playing it so straight down the line that I totally believe in him as the Doctor. You think, right, here he goes. He's going in. He's going to sort this out. I just can't fault him in it. I think he's great.
Yes. And I think this with Katie Manning doing the off. I think that was the following year. Wasn't that one of the contributing reasons why he decided to go? Because he got on so well with Katie Manning that after she obviously went, and then Barry Letts left.
Yeah, and Roger Delgado was sadly killed.
Oh, that's right.
In that accident. Yep. Which, or I don't know, had that already happened at this point? Actually, sorry, but it all contributed. I think they'd lost Delgado, Katie had gone, Barry Letts leaving as well. I think a lot of things came together and just made him think, right, time for me to move on. I think.
Yeah. So it's kind of sad. I mean, imagine if Katie would have hung around for another series, maybe he would have done another one on top, but.
Possibly.
Maybe. Yeah.
I think he left at the right time, though, because I think he's got a good era, Jon Pertwee. He's got some really great, cracking stories. But I think probably was right time to move on, actually. Because his next series has got some good stuff in there as well. And he does work quite well with Liz Sladen. I think.
He does, actually.
But I often forget, that she was his companion. I always think of her as the Fourth Doctor's companion. But yeah, and I've got to give a shout out to Barry Letts and Terrance Dicks, because I was watching a little bit of the making of just before we kicked off. I just love those two guys together. I don't know if you've watched it, but they seem to, they could almost finish each other's sentences. They're just so sort of in tune with each other, and I think that's why they work so well on the show as well. Because Barry Letts was very worried about the way the planet was going, and I think that's why he's sort of like an uncredited writer on this, because I think the idea was, partly his about what's happening with the planet and stuff. And I think Terrance Dicks says in the making of something like, Barry Letts came in with a bit of a face on, and I said, "Come on, Barry, what's the matter now?" He said, "Well, Terrance, the world is doomed." And he's being totally serious. I think that's how it all kicked off and how this story sort of started in the first place. So, but great team, Barry Letts and Terrance Dicks. Yeah,
I agree.
And just before we finish, I must say I do think Michael Bryan did a very good job with the direction on this. I really, really thought the direction was good.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes.
Because considering I know we get shots of, I know not all the shots work, like the maggots on the hill and stuff like that, and also we get quite a bit of CSO in this, which does let the story down, especially not as much as I thought we got, actually, but the scenes with the CSO does let it down a bit.
Yeah.
But I thought direction wise, it was really good. Like the shot of the maggot, creeping up behind Jove to the cliffhanger to episode 2 or 3, whichever it was, stuff like that. And we get a lot of shots of sort of through test tubes and things of characters lined up perfectly. I thought the direction was really good.
No, I agree. No complaints from me on the direction. It's pretty good. The CSO was a bit. I was confused by some of the CSO because there was a scene where the brig and Benton are having a conversation in the field.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then it cuts to them on a blue screen, the CSO, with the same photo of the same field in the background.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back with the Doctor arriving on Bessie. So, and then it cuts again to CSO with the Doctor in Bessie and having a conversation with Benton. So what I can't understand is they were already there in that field filming those scenes, but yet they filmed some of them with CSO with the photograph of the same field in the background.
Yeah.
So
I must admit, I didn't know that. I didn't know why. Yeah.
Maybe that was a pickup. Maybe at the end they were like, "Oh, we need to film this bit again, but we can't go back out to that location, so we'll have to do it." Maybe that. I'm not sure, but it was weird.
It was a bit jarring, wasn't it? Because like the brig's cap sort of almost vanishes in the CSO overlay at one point.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why that is. Like you said, it could have been pickups. I think it says in the production notes that bizarrely it was always planned that way, but I don't know why. Like you said, if they were there, and they're quite short scenes as well, I don't know why they didn't film them at the time. To be honest.
And the elevator. When they're obviously it's a static elevator that they're standing on, but they need to make it look like they're thundering down the mine shaft to CSO, and they're all sort of out of time with each other, wobbling and moving around, and
you got a big yellow line around it all as well, haven't you? Where the CSO, it is a bit of a shame. As I said, there's not as much CSO in it as I remembered, but the scenes with it are a bit jarring. I think actually the end bit's the worst, with the Doctor and Benton on Bessie throwing out the food, and they're supposed to be driving. Yeah. That looks terrible. I mean, that really does look bad. But
having said that, that is one of the things that makes watching Classic Who good.
Yeah.
You know, we said this, oh crikey, right at the beginning when you and I first started recording, and we were talking about just Classic Who in general. And one of the things that's great and has, it has a certain charm about Classic Who is the wobbly sets and the bad effects. So,
definitely,
although on one hand it's like, yes, it looks absolutely terrible. On the other hand, that's what makes it what it is. That's what makes it great sort of Sunday afternoon with a cup of tea viewing, So I don't want to bash that side of it too hard because, that's what makes Classic Who what it is. It's fantastic to watch,
I agree. Yeah, you suspend your belief, don't you? There's something about it you just totally go. Even with the giant fly, which I think if anybody, any of my friends had walked in the room at that point, would just absolutely rip it out of it. I could go with it. I just, like you said, you just suspend your belief because it's so good. Yeah.
Yep. Right, we've waffled for quite a while on this one, so let's crack on with some scores. I think it's me first.
It is, yeah.
I am going in with a 7.
A 7 from you. Yep. I'm going higher. I'm going with an 8.
An 8.
8 out of 10, yeah. Yeah, 8 out of 10. I wasn't sure if it was a little bit high because, as I said, it wasn't quite as brilliant as I remembered, but I still really enjoyed it, and I just love the end scene. So, yeah, 8 out of 10 for me.
Rightio. Nice one. Right, what did our lovely listeners think? We had a couple of audio reviews in, so let's do one of those first. This is our good friend Loopy Lou.
This was a first-time watch for me. When Adam mentioned the giant maggots last week, I thought, oh no, it's going to be terrible. But it wasn't. It was great fun and hilarious in parts, and of course a bit sad at the end. The Doctor's portentous comment in episode 1 is worth noting. So the fledgling flies the coop. Ah. A little etymology fact for you. Bert calls Joe Blodwyn, which means white, fair, and blessed. The brig had some great lines, like, I never thought I'd fire in anger at a dratted caterpillar. Oh, and Benton was hilarious too. That little bit where he said, kitty, 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 come get your lovely din-dins. More good fun, the Doctor escaping by milk float and then sonic freeze the maggots, which was just brilliant. And of course, the flying creature got death by cloak. It was just great fun, and I would give it a solid 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10 as well.
Brilliant, cheers. Death by cloak, I love it.
Yeah, and it's great that it's a first time watch as well.
Yes.
That's always good. Yeah. Yes. Right, over on Facebook, Lewis Palmer says, good story. Action-packed, creepy, funny and sad at the end. He says, admittedly, haven't seen it in a long time, so his memories are a bit vague, but he recalls that the effects are a bit dated, but that doesn't really hurt the story too much. Pertwee at his best. Performance in the last scene is fantastic. You can almost see him thinking about leaving after the next series now that Katie Manning had left and Roger Delgado had tragically died. Unit are great as well. Overall, a great end to the 10th series of classic Doctor Who, an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, cool.
Brian Dobson says, hi, just started listening to the podcast. Very good. I'm more of a classic Who fan than a new Who fan, but here we go. Overall, a credible story that brings out the best in both Unit and Pertwee. The effects are a struggle to watch today, but this was 1973. Funny, poignant, and with one of the saddest goodbyes ever. The final scene is my favourite, when the Doctor slips quietly out of the party, taking one last drink and look at Joe. He gives it a 7 out of 10.
Excellent. Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard, Brian. Nice to have you. Yep. Charlie Turner says it's overrated. I mean, okay, there are some aspects I like and some aspects I don't like. I especially like the final shot of the Doctor on Bessie. It made me feel so bad for him, seeing the look on his face like he's lost his best friend, considering that he's been through all his life. John Pertwee's the best thing about it. Other than that, it's so overrated but enjoyable nonetheless. A 5 out of 10.
Ooh, a bit low.
5. Joseph Howarth says, one of my favourite John Pertwee stories. Yeah, the CSO effects are not the best in the story. The maggots look out of place, and the boss can get a bit grating at times, especially when he says Stevens for the umpteenth time. But ultimately, this is a very effective story, not only for Joe Grant, but also for the Doctor, seeing as this is their last story together. Despite the dodgy effects, the story holds up well. I really do think that this is a fitting departure for Joe. Pertwee is at his best. There's not more I can say, really. To those of you who haven't seen the story, go and see it now. You won't regret it. It's a classic for the third Doctor's era. 9 out of 10.
Wow, high score. Yeah, good.
Yep. Last audio clip. This is Owen Daly.
Hi guys, hope you're both well and enjoying the show this week. So, The Green Death, this is what I call a fantastic story without a doubt about it. Everything about it is entertaining, bar part 1, which I did feel dragged, but once the Doctor takes on the guards with some Venusian karate, you know the story has started. The maggots are great and I loved how they infected the people. Boss was also a great villain and I loved his sing-song voice in the areas where he's talking to Stevens. The Unit family was on par as per usual, and as for the departure story for Joe, I thought it was very, very great, as we see her slowly fall for Cliff Jones, I think his name was, and the final shot when she tells the Doctor that she's leaving him for Cliff was great, and I loved the Doctor, you see him actually emotionally hit by it, and the final shot of him driving away was really, really moving. I watched this with a friend over the weekend who hadn't seen any classics before, and he loved it, and we both had a great time laughing at the blue screen effects, especially the one where your man's going down the mining tunnel. It's just so funny. We couldn't stop laughing. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10, definite classic.
Thank you, Aaron.
Oh, excellent. Cheers, and that's funny. I can just imagine him and his mate sat there laughing at that.
Cracking up, yeah. Sammy Satine says, those damn maggots, they just had to go and cause trouble. They are quite disgusting, and they are disgusting.
They are, yeah.
Yep. Good creature effects for sure. She goes on to say, there's a mine infected with said maggots and Unit goes to investigate. This is basically Unit does alien pest control. Nick Courtney, as always, an absolute delight to watch as the much loved and much missed Brigadier. Love Mike Yates and Benton too. I even like Joe's new boyfriend, though damn him for stealing Joe away from the Doctor. Ruffles, I love Ruffles, and to be honest, at the end, when he says goodbye to Joe, I wanted to give him a big hug. I cried when Joe left. I know she didn't die, but it was sad, and I was sad because the Doctor was sad. She gives it 8 out of 10 because the maggots creep me out.
Brilliant. Cheers, Sammy. She's got a good point, actually. It's a sad ending, but a happy send-off, which is the best.
Yeah. And lastly on Facebook, Stan Gallagher says, short and sweet, loved it. Sad that Joe left.
Right. Yeah, cool. Go. Cheers, Stan.
Anything on the Geeks Handbook? Handbook?
The Geeks Handbook.
Have you got a handbook you can give us, mate?
Yeah, I might change the name, actually. So we did have a couple on Geeks Handbook. I had one on Twitter this week from Elliot Beasley. who says, where do I start with the one with the maggots? The Green Death was the very first classic Doctor Who story I watched, so it will always hold a special nostalgic feeling for me. The story marks the end of an era in many ways. Katie Mann departs the show. It's the last appearance of the Howl Around title sequence, which looks gorgeous, by the way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I love that. And the beginning of the end for Units. There's much to be loved in this outing, whether it's the nice location work in Wales, the eerie trip to Metabelius 3, or the infamous maggots. Did I say it right? I'm really paranoid now. Stevens is a great villain, and Pertwee going undercover as a milkman and cleaner is always memorable. There's a great scene where the Doctor gets to perform some Venetian karate too, and Joe Grant gets one of the best companion exits in the show's history, with the Doctor slowly driving away and Bessie alone once again. If you can get past the dodgy CSO in parts, The Green Death is an amazing watch with an interesting environmental themes. It's certainly not my favourite Pertwee story, he says, but if not my favourite classic story, and truly deserves a 9.5 out of 10. Cheers for that one, Elliot.
9.5.
It's 9.5, so some very high scores. Over on Facebook, Mark Daniel Mooney simply says, loved it, or love it. He loves it. Jace Howells says, I can sum this up in one word. Brilliant.
Cool. Yep.
And it was a good word. And finally, Patrick Stewart says, I love this story. It's one of my favourite Third Doctor stories. So he's giving it a 9.5 out of 10.
Patrick Stewart?
Yeah.
The Patrick
no,
Stewart?
Patrick Stewart. Did I say Patrick Stewart?
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah.
It's Patrick Sherwood.
Okay.
I'm going to go back and listen now. I don't know if I might have done. I don't know.
Maybe it's me.
Yeah.
Anyways, some great scores there. I think overall the score, the average must be 8.5 or an 8.5.
Yeah, quite high scores. I had a couple of nines there, 9.5s. Yeah. I think we only had, so there's only one rated it 5.5, whatever it was. So quite high scores there. Yeah.
Yes. The Green Death. It's if we had to do those badge things that they do on blogs and stuff, we would probably give it a recommended.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go and watch it. Indeed. Right. That's going to do. But next week, we're going back. We're going forward.
Well, it is going back, but it's also going forward.
It's like a Back to the Future moment. We're going to visit the 11th Doctor.
Who can't pronounce the episode? Who can't pronounce the planet, right?
So we're not going to Metabelius 3, are we?
No, we're not. We're not going to Metabelius 3.
So what are we going to review next week?
Oh, good Lord. Next week, we'll be reviewing the 11th Doctor story, The Rings of Akhaten.
The Rings of Arkhaten.
Arkhaten. I was just going to say, actually, there's me bashing the 11th Doctor for not being able to pronounce a planet. Is that how you pronounce Akhaten?
It's Akhaten.
Akhaten.
Yeah.
Rightio.
The Rings of Akhaten, which I remember the post. This was when the Beeb did these cool movie-style posters for each episode in this series. And I was very disappointed with this one because it was like a cross between Indiana Jones and something else. They just basically ripped off the font from Lord of the Rings.
I can't remember the poster for this one. It's strange, isn't it? A lot of them stick in my mind, but not this one.
Yeah, this one, it looks exactly like an Indiana Jones poster. Go and check it out. But yes, The Rings of Akhaten we'll be reviewing next week. And I know for a fact this is going to divide. Because, yes, I just remember when this went out.
Yeah, me too. Very clearly, actually. Yeah.
So really looking forward to next week. Looking forward to you guys' thoughts, reviews, and feelings on it. And I think we'll wrap there.
Okay.
Thank you for sticking with us and listening through episode 110. Slightly long one this week. We've just gone over 2 hours. So if you're still here, thank you very much for sticking with us. And thank you as always for sending in your thoughts on this week's episode. And if you haven't seen it, go and give it a watch. I think we'd recommend quite a few of the Pertwee ones anyway. So this is another one to add.
It's got some good stuff. Yeah, good stuff in the Pertwee era.
Yeah.
Just a lot of them are quite long. That's the only thing.
Yeah, 6 parts. So if you've got a few hours to spare, or 2.5 hours, whatever, then give it a go.
Don't eat it while eating your dinner, though.
Absolutely not.
No.
Right, next week we are reviewing The Rings of Akaten, so please send in your thoughts. You can do that on Twitter, Facebook, or send us an audio clip. Just email it over hello@bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And talking of .co.uk, head over to the website www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk or .com, whichever you like. You can listen to all the previous episodes there, and you can link off to all the social stuff. You can also click the iTunes button so you can subscribe and listen every week in iTunes and never miss one. And if you are an iTunes listener, if you could give us a review and a rating on there, that would be fab, because it helps us out loads with pushing our little thumbnail up the list in iTunes. That would be great. Also, check out Adam's stuff. He runs a very successful YouTube channel called The Geek's Handbook.
It's not.
No, he runs a YouTube channel called The Geek's Handbag.
That's the one. It was going to be called The Geek's Man Bag, but I did change it.
Yes.
For reasons that we haven't got time to explain now.
Of course. So check out The Geek's Handbag. He's on Facebook as well. Loads of cool stuff there. Really good videos, unboxings, reviews, the lot.
The whole shebang.
It's all good stuff. Right, I'm going to go and watch The Rings of Akaten now.
Oh, yeah?
Because I'm in the mood for it, yes. So
I'm so not in the mood for it. I'll be watching it next week.
Well, I want to get it out of the way. Right. Until next week, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,